everyone, and welcome to the Disability Commission Advisory Board meeting. The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made by Boston City TV, a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, and is being broadcast on Xfinity Channel 26, RCN Channel 13, and FiOS Channel 962, as well as live streamed on YouTube, where the recording will stay. And now I turn it over to the person chairing the board meeting, Carl Richardson.
Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everybody had a pleasant holiday season. I'd like to start out with introductions. My name is Carl Richardson. I am currently the Secretary of the Boston Disability Commission. I live in Brighton. I identify as a deaf-blind individual, and tonight I am the acting chair because Wesley Ireland, our normal chair, has other commitments that he couldn't get out of. So let's start with introductions. We'll start with Paul.
Hey everyone, my name is Paul Karen. I live in the West End of Boston. I serve as the Vice Chairman of the Disability Advisory Board as a mental health advocate. I work right at the Boston Planning Department as a supervisor, and also still recognized as a foreman in Labor's Local 151. I recognize as a white male with short hair. I'm wearing a blue shirt, and help out with the city a lot of mental advocacy through family and friends that have mental illness, and always here to help. Thank you.
Charlie.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Charlie Kim. I'm a resident of the North End. I serve on the advisory board as representing parents and caregivers of children and loved ones with disabilities. I have black hair. I'm Asian. I have glasses, and I'm wearing a blue jacket. Thank you.
Okay, Olivia Richards.
Hi, my name's Olivia Richard. I am a member of the board, and I'm from Brighton. And a visual description is wearing a backwards cap that says keep back 300 feet, because it's from the fire department. I've got glasses, short blonde hair, and I'm wearing a red t-shirt.
Olivia, I always thought you had dark hair. Thank you for that description. Tara.
Hi everyone, my name is Tara. I'm a member of the board. I am a little Caucasian woman who uses a wheelchair. I advocate a lot for people with disabilities as well as children in foster care. I am wearing a pink cheetah patterned sweatshirt.
Do I see an Elizabeth here. Is that Elizabeth Flower?
Carl, this is Andrea. No, that's actually a fellow in our office for the semester.
Are there any other commission members that I did not recognize?
Zari has come, and Richard.
Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, Carl, can you speak a little louder? I'm having trouble hearing.
Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, Richard Plevsky, I live in Back Bay. I guess I have to confess having gray hair. I'm Caucasian, I am hearing impaired, and I'm a member of the commission.
And Andrea, who did you say was the other member that was here?
Zari and Jerry, and I know those two names sound very similar.
All right, Jerry.
Hi everyone, this is Zari. I'm a Hosseini. I'm a board member. I have short brown hair. And my background is my kitchen. I'm a wheelchair user. And you're all celebrating my birthday today with me.
And last but not least, I'm sorry, my memory, Andrea, who was the last person that you mentioned?
Jerry Boyd.
Jerry Boyd. Please, Jerry, last but not least.
I'm not last, actually. I think Paulette has joined us as well.
Okay.
But anyway, my name is Jerry Boyd. I live in West Roxbury. Longtime member of the board, longtime disability advocate. I am a Caucasian male, also a wheelchair user. I have salt and pepper hair. I have glasses on, and I am proudly wearing a ADA Day volunteer shirt, closely guarded volunteer shirt that Patricia was able to get for me a few years back, that I hold dear. So.
And Paulette. Paulette?
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I've had overlapping responsibilities here. My name is Paulette Durrett. I live in Mattapan, Mass. I'm an African-American senior citizen, and I'm wearing maroon and gray today.
Thank you. Did I forget any other commission members? Okay. And we do have quorum. Is that correct, Andrea?
Yes, we now have a quorum with everyone here.
Next, I'd like to approve the December minutes. If I could hear a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Paulette made the motion. Any second?
This is Jerry. I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Jerry. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation from the special project manager for the Boston Parks and Recreation Department, and she'll be talking about work currently being done at the Franklin Park. Lauren Bryant.
Thank you, Carl. As Carl said, my name is Lauren Bryant, and I'm a senior project manager with the Boston Parks Department. I've been working for Boston Parks for about 14 years now. I'm going to jump back and do my description for you guys too, because I just forgot to do that. So I am a Caucasian female, have sandy blonde hair, curly, and I wear glasses, and I'm wearing a burnt orange sweater today. So I just wanted to share, Andrea asked if I would jump in and share with you guys some of the work that's happening in Franklin Park. And Andrea and I have worked together a lot because I have worked on a lot of accessibility and inclusion projects with the Parks Department and have become sort of our de facto inclusion specialist. I do a lot of reviewing of projects for other people and really try to help push initiatives within the Parks Department for accessibility and inclusion. One of the things that you guys may know, I worked with Andrea on the website for inclusive components in Boston Parks. And so I really have been trying to push accessibility. So we have a lot of things going on in Franklin Park, and I know there are always a lot of questions about what's happening. So Andrea asked if I would just give you guys a brief overview of the projects that we have. And I think the easiest way to do that is that I'm going to share one of our city project websites. Can you guys see that? And do I need to zoom in a little bit? Let's see if I can zoom in a little.
It's still loading. Okay, now it's loaded.
Okay. Okay, so this is the project website, and I can put the link in a chat. This is something that I put together because people keep asking, what's Parks doing in Franklin Park? So we have on the city website, we have the 6 ongoing projects that we're doing in Franklin Park. And I'm gonna do just a quick chat with you guys about each of these. So if you go to this website, you can click on any one of these projects and get to a separate website that gives you all the information on it. So I'll just go in alphabetical order on these. So the bear dens, if you guys aren't familiar, the bear dens are the old bear cages of the zoo. It was the first facility that was built for animals in the zoo. So it's over 100 years old. It obviously no longer has bears in it. It's part of the Boston Parks Department. But what happened is, because it was part of the zoo, we didn't have care and custody of it as a city. So it fell into disrepair, and just within the last month and a half, we got care and custody of the bear dens back to the city. So what our first project is that we're making it safe. And what that means for right now, it's phase one of a longer term project to revitalize that space. But what the project is to fill in voids under stairs. There are rusty metal cage pieces left over from the bear den area that we're removing, cleaning up, and really just making it safe. So one of the things that is going to happen is those safety things are going to start happening late spring, early summer, and then we're going to go into construction and probably be finished by the end of 2025. We're doing the very basic safety components right now. And then what we're doing is for phase two, when we actually figure out what the program of this space is going to be, we'll be doing all of our accessibility upgrades then, because this is just a quick, we now have it back and we're making it safe. And there will be a time variance for phase one that's going to come to the state so that we can make sure that we have that in the project for when we do the next phase. Circuit Drive, for anybody who spends time in Franklin Park, you guys will know Circuit Drive is kind of crazy. It's very fast. There's not a lot of crossings. It disconnects the two sides of the park from each other. So what we're going to be looking at is doing traffic studies and traffic counts. We're going to be looking at how do we slow down the speed on Franklin Park? How do we improve pedestrian crossings? Because right now they're not safe and there aren't very many of them. So we want to make sure that we do traffic calming, and we're going to also be studying locations for additional accessible parking spaces. Because right now they're just long linear parking along the edges of Circuit Drive, and there's really no designated accessible parking. There mainly are at some of the larger destinations, the clubhouse parking lot, over by the tennis courts, but really along Circuit Drive there aren't any. So that's something else that we're going to be looking at. We have a designer on board, and we're starting the project now for design, and we're looking at possible construction starting in late summer or early fall. We have a dog facilities study that's starting, which is pretty exciting. I know a lot of people want to be able to take their dogs to the park and have a safe space for them. So we're not going to be doing any construction, but what that project is going to be doing with accessibility is taking and looking at making sure wherever we propose dog parks that it is accessible to all to be able to use. And that project is probably going to go into design in the next 6 months. So that's 3 of the 6 projects. So I'm going to stop there. And does anybody have any questions about those 3 that I didn't hit?
So this is Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Going back to the bear
Yeah.
cave.
Yep.
So my understanding is that's not open to the public, and it won't be open to the public. So right now, you're just making safety improvements and
So-
you're requesting a variance from the state.
Right, so right now, it's not that it's not open to the public. It's open in terms of nothing is barricaded off, and it hasn't been. So right now, that's part of why we are making the safety improvements. Anybody could traverse through that space, and because we haven't had care and custody, the city of Boston couldn't do anything about it because it was in the state's care and custody. So now that it's back with us, we're going to make it safe so that as people do traverse through it, because they do, I mean, unfortunately, it's also a place where we have homeless and drug use right now as well. And so the fear is that people are going to get hurt. And so right now, we're making it safe. So there's nothing that barricades people off from going in, but right now, it's just making it safe. And then we're doing some design studies, and we'll have the community involved to say, what should this space be? Is it a playground? Is it an outdoor dining space? Is it somewhere that food trucks can come? What does this become? And at that point, once we know what that program is, there'll be a full accessibility study to make sure that whatever it is that it turns into is accessible for everyone. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions on the others? Okay, I'm going to jump over to the Franklin Park Maintenance Trust. So this is, for those of you who are familiar, the city had $28 million that came from the sale of the Winthrop Square Garage that specifically is going to Franklin Park. So one of the things that they did at the very beginning of that project is that $5 million was set aside into an endowment. The interest that comes off of that endowment every year goes towards enhanced maintenance at Franklin Park. So things that go above and beyond what our Boston Parks maintenance staff can do on a regular basis. So one of the things that we've been doing is things like removing invasive vegetation that takes years and years to come back, and keep working on it year after year. One of the other things that we did this past year was the Glen Road entrance in Franklin Park that we've heard a lot about from the Friends groups from Franklin Park Coalition, is that it was unsafe. People, not only could people twist ankles if they're walking, no one in a wheelchair could go across it. The cracks were too big, lots of tree roots in the way, and it was really just in terrible condition. So one of the things that we did was we repaved that entire length of that pathway with that maintenance trust funding. The next big project that we're doing a lot of small projects, but the next big project that we're doing is Ellicott Arch, which goes under Circuit Drive. And right now, there's not great pavement underneath it and to the sides of it, so we're going to be repaving that. We're also going to be putting in security lighting that's going underneath there as well for safety. So that's our next big project, but every year we're going to be it's going to be about approximately $250,000 a year that goes back into Franklin Park. And so that's one of my projects as well, is to just keep seeing what we can improve, and accessibility is definitely one of the things that we're going to be looking at every year. The Overlook study. So the Overlook, a lot of people know it as the Alma Lewis Playhouse. So the Overlook is ruins. It's a building that used to be there. It's the only building actually that Frederick Law Olmsted designed. Right now, all that's left are, some stone stairs, some walls that are there, but it was where Alma Lewis had the Playhouse originally. So there was a stage, there were seats that were brought in. It was pretty incredible. But because it has fallen into disrepair, that Playhouse got moved out of the Overlook ruins and closer to the parking area. So what we're looking at is how can we revitalize the ruins? How can we turn it back into something joyful? How can we bring the Playhouse back there? And this one, I do have a couple of images I wanted to show you guys, because it's pretty incredible that the accessibility there is so challenging. And so it's really going to be one of the key things that we talk through with that project. So I'm going to stop sharing the website, if it will let me. Okay, get back to my screen that has the sharing. Maybe. Okay. Let's share. Okay, can you guys see this now? Slide that has big circles on it?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So this, I just wanted to show you guys how much accessibility is at the forefront of this project. So these were comments and ideas that came from the community, and they're really grouped into three categories, which are Elma Lewis's legacy, restoration of the ruins, and accessibility. And how do all of these come together? So I just thought you guys would appreciate seeing that that really was such a critical point of what the community and the design team is looking at here. Let's see. Andrea, when I changed the slide, do you still see it?
Yes.
Do you see the plan? Okay. So part of why I was saying it's really challenging is that the only thing that is actually accessible, and even that, the lightest blue would need to be ramps. And so right now, all of that red is inaccessible to get in. This big blue rectangle in the middle, that's actually the Overlook ruins. And so one of the things that we're looking at is there are places that in order to get into the main space, in order to get into that main ruins on both sides, the only access is between 16 and 25% slope right now, which is crazy, right? And right now it's grassed in, but part of it is part of this conceptual design is to look at that and say, how do we fix this, right? Right now it's grass and it's really steep, so you can't get there. So this is going to be a really exciting project because accessibility is really going to be at the forefront of this one, which I'm really excited about. So I'm going to stop sharing that one. And also, just to let you guys know too, is that Monday we have a meeting with the Disability Commission and the Landmarks Commission to specifically talk about the Overlook and to talk about where we're at and how we're trying to get that project even more accessible. And so I'm really excited about the huge change that we can make here. And then I think the last project, and then I can go back and focus on any of them that you'd like, is the Shattuck Picnic Area Tennis. And so one of the things we're doing there is we're expanding the tennis. The Franklin Park Tennis Association does amazing work, and they have a lot of free programs, and they have a lot of elderly members that come, and they have a really hard time getting to the tennis courts. And so we're expanding the tennis courts. It's going to be expanded from 2 to either 4 or 5. And we are putting in accessible seating. We're putting in more pathways to get to the court that are accessible. We're also going to be improving all of the access along the parking edge to make sure it's easier to get into the picnic space. Adding more accessible tables in the Shattuck Picnic Grove, which is, if you may be familiar, is where a huge Juneteenth celebration is hosted. And so we're going to be doing a lot of that kind of updates. We're going to be looking at shaded seating as well. So for people who are watching the tennis, people who are waiting to play, because we know that there's a lot of temperature regulation issues as well. So trying to make sure we provide shade. We're going to be bringing in drinking fountains, water, and lights and utilities that currently aren't there. And that project is in design right now. For anybody who's interested, we have a community meeting January 14th next week. It's in person at the Franklin Park Clubhouse. And we should be starting construction late summer, definitely after Juneteenth, because we want to make sure that the space is fully open for that. But that's it. So we're doing a lot in Franklin Park, and we're trying really hard to make a lot of updates that make a big difference to a lot of people.
Thank you, Lauren. Any questions from the commission members?
Carl, this is Andrea. Charlie has put his hand up.
Charlie, go ahead.
Hi, this is Charlie Kim. Lauren, thank you for the presentation. I actually went on while you were doing it so I could kind of scroll around and take a look at some of the details. I'm not sure, this is just kind of, if this is a policy question or, so let's say that with all of the funds that are allocated to the Franklin Park projects, something is just not feasible. It's just not physically possible. Like the cliffs that you were showing, you may not be able to make them as accessible as you would like. Is there a law or policy where you would then reallocate funds to a different project within the scope to add or enhance a different portion of a project if you're unable to achieve specific accessibility? I don't know if it's a metric or a percentage of something, in order to, whether it be on a budget purpose or whichever, like, if you couldn't do anything on the cliffs, would you do more at the tennis courts or something like that? And I don't know if that question makes sense and if that's like a policy or a fiscal, budgeting type of thing.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I think it makes sense. So if I don't answer it correctly, let me know if I didn't understand. There's no policy that I'm aware of that specifically has a requirement to reallocate something, but I will say on that project that has that, 16 to 28, whatever it was, % slope, we fully intend to make that accessible. So in terms of the projects that we shared, none of those would be projects that we will not make accessible. So that's something that is definitely a goal and a priority for all of those. There might be a place that we need to do a variance because a portion might not be accessible, but the reality is that that's the entire goal of these projects, is to make sure that they are accessible.
Lauren, this is Carl. So when you say variance, I'm assuming you're using 521 CMR standards,
Exactly, absolutely.
which are the Massachusetts standards. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. I've been working quite a bit with the Disability Commission whenever we do need to go for a variance, which we try really hard not to. Part of what we really try to do, especially in our playgrounds, because they're so much fun for everyone, is that, we try really hard not to just meet code requirements, and we really try to go above and beyond everywhere that we can. So it really drives us crazy when we can't get to every single one of them.
You guys do accessibility regardless of the trigger of 20% of the value?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I mean, it may not be the entire facility, right? Because let's say Franklin Park, even though we don't hit that threshold of the percentage, we still, each individual project we look at with accessibility, and not only accessibility and meeting accessibility requirements, but really look at it to try to make it more inclusive as well.
Anybody else have a hand up?
This is Charlie again. Carl, can you, and I was trying to follow along because I don't know these laws very well. I heard a percentage, 20%. Can you kind of give a little bit more clarity on that? Because I think that was kind of the question when I was asking about it. Is there a metric or a percentage that something has to have certain
Under
allocation?
521 CMR, which is a Massachusetts, it's the Architectural Access Board's regulation. And Patricia can jump in if I'm wrong, but if it's not new construction, if you're going back and redoing something, the trigger point, let's say for a private business or a restaurant or the trigger point is 20% of, if you do more than, if the reconstruction or the renovation is more than 20% of the overall value, you have to follow code.
This is
Sorry,
Andrea.
Andrea.
Yeah, I might jump in. So any work that you do always has to be, like, that work itself has to meet code.
Absolutely.
The 20% trigger is to bring the rest of the building up to code. So if a restaurant, yeah. So if a restaurant, or in this case a park, if the work that Lauren just described was more than 20% of the assessed value of Franklin Park, then 521 CMR would require that we bring the whole facility up to code. But the other point I would add, Charlie, to your point is, you only get a variance from the MAAB if the board votes for it. So in terms of there being a policy of what's an agreed upon amount of, like, we did the best we could, we made it as accessible as possible, to the extent that there's a measure of that, it's whether the board votes and agrees with you. So we would submit, like, maybe one of those paths that's right now between 16 and 24%, maybe we get one of them down to code, but the other one, we only get down to 1% above code. So it's not technically compliant, but it's a lot better. And we would go to the board and say, here's why we couldn't get that last percent. There are two justifications that an applicant can offer. One is technical infeasibility. This is more for buildings where, like, the ramp would be longer than the building. Like, I can't build a ramp longer than a building. The second is excessive cost compared to the benefit for persons with disabilities. So this would be, we have 2 elevators. These stairs technically don't meet code, they're a little too tall, but we'd have to, spend 100% of our building's assessed value to redo the stairs when we already have 2 elevators. Is that really worth the cost? The board says whether or not you meet those standards. So to the extent that there's a policy, the board decides. And if they say no, then we have to do it. And if they say yes, we do the best we can.
Yeah, and what Andrea was saying in terms of that percentage, so there was a project that I was working on, Malcolm X Park, where the cost of the renovation was more than that percentage of, it was actually 100% of the assessed value of the park. And so because of that, we actually had to relook at the scope of the project and make sure that it wasn't just the playground and the fields were accessible, but every entrance, and make sure every single thing was accessible, because it triggered that. So it expanded the scope of the project because we were over that threshold percentage. So that's something that we look at as well. Not only is every single project that we do required to meet ADA, but sometimes it expands that scope because of that percentage.
And just so you know, the Architectural Access Board has been in place since 1968, well before the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. And developers, when they build or do construction and have to meet accessibility needs, they have to look at both 521 CMR and the Architectural Access Guidelines for the ADA.
And I also just wanted to let everybody know that I did drop the website for the initiatives in Franklin Park into the chat, and I also put my email address in there as well in case anybody has any questions.
I have a question. This is Paulette. Are you in the department that if somebody saw something broken in a park that they would contact you, or is it another city agency?
I am in the Parks Department, so if there's something wrong in the park, you can do 311. You can let me know, and I can pass it along to the right person right now as well. I mean, I'm happy to. Did you run into something?
I did. The park across the street from the Park Center in Dorchester at 650 Dudley Street.
Okay.
And so they have this structure that you can lean against and stretch.
Okay.
Some of the bolts are missing in it.
That's okay.
It's loose, yes.
Okay, yeah, I will let them know, and hopefully somebody can get over there really soon. But also, if you are ever wanting to, if you have a smartphone, there is an app for 311, or you can call 311, and then they are required to track it too. So even with me, I like putting it in the app because I get a little notice when it's been fixed. So I'm happy to pass that along, but feel free to also put it in, because the more people hear about it, the quicker things get done, I find.
Oh, okay, thank you. I did call it in, but then
good, okay.
I didn't see any repairs, so I said.
Perfect. Oh, I will ask tomorrow.
Your timing is perfect, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Lauren? Hearing none, Lauren, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and thank you for updating us and your commitment to accessibility.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, and I hope you have a great rest of the night.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Do we need to pause for an interpreter switch?
I'm seeing no from the interpreters.
We're good?
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Next is the chair's report, and I'm going to have Andrea read it since Wes submitted it in writing, and she can read his report so that we're up to date.
Thank you, Carl. Let me mute or pin my video for folks. Happy New Year. I hope that everyone had a great holiday. I send my apologies for not being able to attend this meeting, as I had prior plans before I found out the confirmed dates of this year's meetings. So I look forward to seeing everyone next month. Before the 5 items in my chair's report are shared, I wanted to say that my thoughts are with everyone impacted by the wildfires in Los Angeles area, and I hope everyone, including those with disabilities, are safe and sound. First item, the state's Commission on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. The Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Persons with Disabilities met last month to ensure that the disabled residents are set up for success in their communities, the workplace, and beyond. Currently, the primary function of this commission is to create partnerships with businesses and school systems to help people with disabilities have productive employment. They also have discussed what their work would look like moving forward as the chair of their commission, Denise Garlick of Needham, brings forward several issues to consider as their next priority. They have talked about the important issues such as housing, transportation, and health equity. The commission selected health as their 2025 priority, with the focus of ensuring healthcare equity across levels of need in the disability community. Second item, there was an NBC 10 Boston report on RMV disability parking placards. So the NBC 10 Boston investigators last month did a report on one local woman's wait for a temporary disability parking placard, and it was learned that the RMV had a very slow process in mailing placards to drivers who applied for temporary parking placard, as it states on the RMV website with this line: please allow at least 30 business days for processing. After this news broke, the RMV is now speeding up the processing time for those who may need it if one is injured or recovering from surgery. The RMV is beefing up their additional staffing resources to allocate this issue so that medical affairs teams' processing of temporary placards will now be handled within 2 to 3 business days. They are also looking to add online submissions to help streamline the process that currently accepts only paper applications. Third, Boston Globe article on disability stories having only 2 endings. There was an article in the Boston Globe last week written by a woman who has several autoimmune diseases and has had accompanying surgeries, and she had a stack of books on her coffee table to keep her company. Many of these books were memoirs written by other people who are ill, and she has noticed a pattern in these memoirs. There are only 2 trajectories. Either the person is miraculously cured, and not only cured, but also vehement that they wouldn't trade their experience for anything else, or they die. She couldn't help wondering if these narratives reveal less about reality and more about American attitudes towards disability and chronic illness. For example, there tend to be only 2 possible endings for an ill or disabled character, a framework that disabled scholars have called kill or cure. Like these famous stories in Little Mermaid, Sleeping Beauty, Of Mice and Men, and Heidi. Still, these books reveal how little room there is for people living with disabilities or chronic illness in real life. On an unrelated note, thanks to Carl's recommendation for a book that doesn't include any of these 2 endings, and that is sports related, I just picked up a borrowed book from the Boston Public Library, The Boys of Riverside, a deaf football team and a quest for glory. This is written by a journalist, Thomas Fuller, as he summarizes the success of the California School for the Deaf, Riverside, having an undefeated season. This book was published sometime last year in 2024. Also, Amazon has picked this book as one of the best books of 2024 at the #1 spot. The 4th item, HearView AI controversy. There is a big controversy in our deaf and hard of hearing community about HearView glasses, which are AR, augmented reality, smart glasses sold by a Chinese company called Xiao that allows people to read real-time transcription of spoken words on their glasses. The major issue here is whether Xiao, HearView, is exploiting deaf customers by repackaging and rebranding what seems to be the exact same glasses made by another Chinese brand, InMogo, and selling them with a 400% markup, with prices ranging from $1,999 to $1,399, while the InMo glasses are only about $300. The second part of this conspiracy has to do with HearView's aggressive strategy to market its products to the U.S. deaf community through partnership deals with the National Association of the Deaf and Deafopia, and by giving their products to popular deaf influencers in exchange for them posting videos about the glasses. As a result, HearView received valuable publicity by showing their proximity with the NAD CEO and ability to penetrate deaf social media, which probably resulted in even more sales of their $1,999 glasses. NAD's interim CEO has confirmed that they are concerned about the price differences, but clarified the organization's mission is on civil rights advocacy, and they're not there to evaluate products and services. As technology keeps changing, I'm aware of an incoming competitor, which Meta AI has a partnership with, Ray-Ban glasses. They are working on adding transcription translation services on their AR smart glasses with many other features. Also, there is hope that these smart glasses would be covered by health insurance through HSA or FSA. Finally, the fifth item is board election nominations. Later in this meeting, we will go over board election nominations, and I would like to say that I have decided to step down as chair, a position I've held since 2022. I have decided it is time to pass on the baton, as I want to have more time with my two wonderful daughters who are growing up so fast. I plan to do closing remarks to reflect on my time as chair at next month's meeting, and don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I will still remain on the advisory board.
Thank you, Andrea. I just want to clarify point number one about the permanent status on commission of persons with disability, because I'm actually one of the commissioners on that board, and the healthcare equity that was discussed in that item is actually be one of the subcommittees within that commission to overlook and try to address the issues of healthcare inequity or equity, which I, along with Charlie Carr, are the chair of that subcommittee, along with and then there are two other subcommittees within that, one to do with employment, which still remains and will be strong and vital, and the other one to do with addressing the dire critical need for the shortage of healthcare providers. So those are the areas that the commission, for the time being, are looking at. And Representative Garlick term ended at the end of December, and she did not run for re-election, so we are currently looking for a new chair within the legislature to be the chair of that committee. Okay? On the smart glasses, I use the Ray-Ban smart glasses, the Meta glasses, every single day because I use it as a blind person to read my mail, tell me what it sees around me visually, and I can also have sighted people access my video and give me wayfinding and queuing instructions if I need it. It dramatically changed my life. So, and I'm hoping that it'll do so across people across the disability spectrum, not just the blind, the deaf, the hard of hearing, those with mobility needs, those with hidden or intellectual disabilities. I think we hear so much about the potential negative impact of AI. I think the AI could also dramatically level the playing field for people with disabilities and smart glasses and other technologies. Does anybody else have any other comment on the chair's report before we move on to the commissioner's report?
I do.
Hi, Carl. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Olivia does.
This is Olivia. I know that the Meta smart glasses are covered by VSP. Part of them, part of the cost is covered through that vision insurance plan, which Commonwealth Care Alliance participates with.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to add another book, which is a really good book I'd recommend. It's called Everybody Here knows sign language, and it's about the evolution of sign language in the U.S. It started on Martha's Vineyard
Yeah.
because there was a congenital deaf gene in the settlers there, and so throughout the first few hundred years of settling this country, a majority of people on Martha's Vineyard were deaf, so everybody knew sign language. So people who were deaf could go to school, they could get jobs because it was like basically a second language on the island, and it's a really good book. So I
Even
recommend
though,
that.
if you know your history, even those who weren't deaf knew sign language. So the store owners who weren't deaf, because they wanted the business of the deaf community, so they learned sign language so that, so everybody, it's an amazing story. Commissioner McCarthy, I apologize during the introductions. I forgot to have you introduce yourself, so I'm going to have you introduce yourself now. And then once you introduce yourself, you can go ahead and give your report.
Thanks, Carl. I do see a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to address that now.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, I'm happy to.
This is Andrea. I'll read it out from Zari. Question about these glasses. Are they currently being used in healthcare settings? I'm wondering about HIPAA requirements.
I don't know the answer to that. Sorry.
Great. So thanks, Carl. So Andrew's going to share my slide deck. And I don't have a very long report tonight, mainly because it's holiday season.
You
and I
first
know,
want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. And we have a lot to get to. So Krista McCosh, I'm the Disability Commissioner and ADA Title II Coordinator for the city. I am a Caucasian woman with blonde hair and glasses, and my background is Boston City Hall. All right, so we'll start with some department updates, just a few. I may have mentioned to most of you that the state of the city, the mayor's annual address to the city will be postponed this year because, as we all know, the mayor is expecting a baby this month. So the state of the city will be pushed off until March, and it will be held again at the MGM Music Hall in Kendall Square. A few notes about ADA Day 25. This year is the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I can't believe it's been that long, but we've seen a ton of positive changes, and we always look forward to our celebration every year. But this year we'll be doing a joint event with BCIL and other disability organizations from across the state, similar to celebrations we did on the 20th and the 25th. We had a joint celebration planned for the 30th anniversary 5 years ago, but that was in the middle of COVID, so we pivoted to a virtual joint event. So this year it will look a little bit different. We're in very early planning stages, but it will be more of like a march and a rally, maybe on the Boston Common or in Copley Square. But we won't do our resource fair this year as it's been done every year. We'll do the resource fair again next year, but this year we're going to do a big joint celebration and rally and really look at protecting people's rights, especially with the current climate that we know, the political climate. We really want to make sure that the ADA is protected and that we all speak out and exercise our rights as people with disabilities and family members of people with disabilities. So stay tuned for more information on that. And I just wanted to give a note that our training specialist, Kai Kennedy, has a series of trainings that are recorded on our YouTube channel. So feel free to take a look at them. You can share them with your colleagues and friends. We will be making more of a catalog of trainings coming up. And Kai also has some limited availability for in-person training. They have a form that, if it's not on the website yet, it will be going on the website for like organizations to request training. But I really just want to highlight that we're working on a lot of training this year. That's one of our priorities in the department, to do training with multiple City of Boston departments. We are working closely now, starting to work with the Boston Police Department on some trainings. So we're excited about that. And just wanted to let everybody know to check out our YouTube channel on a regular basis, because we will be uploading not only trainings, but other information, our Disability News and Views monthly program, and of course our board meetings. So check out our YouTube channel. And I think Zari wants the link, if somebody could put it in the chat, one of my staff. Thank you. All right, so an important update nationwide. I don't know if many of you are familiar with the Public Rights of Way Accessibility Guidelines, also known as PROAG. But this is a piece of, it's guidance from the U.S. Access Board, which talks about accessibility standards of public rights of way. When the ADA was passed 35 years ago, it didn't really talk about public rights of way because there was so much to figure out. Streets, sidewalks, intersections, natural topography, parking. I mean, bike lanes weren't even mentioned because there were no bike lanes back then. Just like in the ADA, technology wasn't really mentioned because it was 1990, so there was no internet yet. Anyway, it's been a long battle to get PROAG passed, and it finally passed on December 18th. The U.S. Department of Transportation adopted these standards. So beginning effective on January 17th, all new construction and alterations of transit stops in the public right-of-way will be required to comply with the technical accessibility specifications. All this being said, I can say that the City of Boston pretty much already designs the PROAG standards, but these standards weren't really codified. So now that they are codified, it will be another step in ensuring that everything in the public right-of-way is accessible, and we'll have standards for compliance that we'll have to meet. So it's really exciting. The guidelines themselves are a little bit technical, but if you're interested, we can always get you more information, or I'd be happy to answer questions if you have it. Next slide. And then I just wanted to mention with the new year, some opportunities for our board members. As you may know, you are board members under the MGL state law, Chapter 40, Section 8J, which outlines the disability commissions for cities and towns. So one thing that you are welcome to join and encouraged to join is a group called CODA. This is the Commissions on Disability Alliance. And it's a group of all, not all, but many local disability commissions in the greater Boston area. I know Newton and Somerville, Watertown, Framingham, I believe. There's a lot of local disability commissions that meet monthly. It's organized by the Disability Policy Consortium, and they hold a monthly call. And it's really to share best practices, to share advice, mentorship, commiserate, because we're all dealing with a lot of the same issues that are challenging. Things like snow removal and bike lanes. Even though bike lanes are a good thing, we know that they present challenges for people with disabilities. So CODA is a place where you can talk to other cities and towns and see what they're working on. It's a little bit, Boston is a little bit different, as you know, because we have paid staff. We have the largest paid staff in the state as Disability Commission, but we also have our advisory board, who are all you members who are here tonight, and we really want to help you exercise your appointment and the things that you can do with your appointment. So if you ever have time, the meetings are once a month on a Wednesday, I believe at noon, and they're just virtual, or they might be phone in, I'm not sure, but they're probably virtual. But it's a great opportunity if you even can listen in on your lunch hour, or if you want to get more involved, click on the link to CODA, and that will have information on how to join. And then one other resource I want to let you know about is the Mass Office on Disability. They oversee the municipal commissions on disability. You may remember they came in and did a training about the board responsibilities a couple of years ago when Richard had questions. But they also hold a lot of webinars and trainings and meetings, along with a quarterly tea session. So anything that you have questions about or would like more training on, this is a great place to go for training. They recently had one on hosting accessible meetings. They have trainings on service dogs. And again, it's more just for your general information and knowledge, but I would highly recommend checking out their website, and you can get there through the link on the quarterly tea. And that's it for my report. Like I said, it's brief tonight, but I know we have a lot to get to, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Did I hear someone raise their hand?
This is Andrea. That may have been a noise when a member of the public joined. I don't see any hands, but if folks
Well,
do.
then I have a question. Going back to your YouTube channel, are all the videos you're posting captioned for the deaf and hard of hearing community?
This is Andrea. They're currently captioned with the YouTube automatic captions. We're still working on embedding our own captions tracks. But we do, as the host of a YouTube channel, have the ability to go in and edit the YouTube AI generated ones. to make sure they're right with like proper names, so I can check on if we've done that for everything.
Any other questions for the commissioner before we move on? Okay, seeing none, next is the architectural access report. Patricia Mendez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia Mendez. I'm the Director of Architectural Access. A brief description: I have short hair and I'm wearing glasses and a black sweater. I'm going to talk about City Hall Plaza, and if Andre, are you sharing the slides, or
Yep.
should I?
Just one sec, sorry.
And I'm going to be showing you some photos and videos of a walkthrough that Commissioner did with staff, and Paul was also part of the walkthrough. That was last week. As you may remember, when the plaza renovation was happening, the advisory board was interested to know how would the materials perform in the future. So we wanted to know after a year whether or not the brick pavers were in good condition or not. So as I said, Commissioner went and took some photos and looked at the materials, and it looks okay. And we took also pictures of some of the small areas that need some little bit of repair. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the front of City Hall Plaza on Cambridge side. You see the step way far. That's the speaker's corner. You see that the brick there, it looks okay, looks in good condition, and it's holding up very well. And in the following slides, we're going to show you other materials and other areas. And we just want to highlight that in the last year or two, we didn't have a lot of snow, so we got lucky. Okay, so the next area that we took a look is the porous paving area. This surface is continuous, so it's not pavers, it's continuous poured in place porous paving area, and that allows the trees and the tree roots to absorb the water from the rain. So that area looks in good condition. And the tree pits are small. Right. In the next slide, we are looking at the main promenade, and you can see on the left a little bit part of the playground, and far ahead is the Boston Public Market and Congress Street. So that is near the entrance of the north side of the building on the second floor entrance. And those pavers seem in good condition. Next slide. All right. These two pictures are on the side of the federal building. And this is a little bit of a raised area. So let's say you're starting on Cambridge Street and you're approaching the plaza and you're walking towards Congress Street. And in that area, we can appreciate the brick pavers in good condition, also the granite material, granite pavers, also in good condition. Oh, also I want to point out in these two pictures that we have the international symbol of accessibility because we are showing the accessible route, which is a little bit like around the round area that has a few steps. So we are highlighting with signs the accessible route in order to avoid a few steps. Next slide.
This is Andrea. I'm going to step in real quick, Patricia, because the next slide is the video.
Okay.
And so I want to just shout out members of this board as well as others who pointed out this challenge to us. So as Patricia said, there's like a circular area. It's sometimes called the neighborhood circle. We're all still coming up with names for what to call these things, over by the Federal Building. And 3 of the entrances to that circle are stair-free. But if you're just heading through that circle, kind of from the JFK building toward City Hall, you'll encounter stairs. And they're so shallow, it wasn't necessarily obvious for folks that they were even there until you were like right on top of them. So that's where, with your feedback, we've added these ISA signs to indicate what the stair-free route is to get down to that accessible walkway on the north side to the second floor entrance that Patricia mentioned. So this is now a video that shows it's just me holding my phone, walking the accessible stair-free route, following those signs. The video started showing the stairs, and then you go to the left towards the first sign. We're now walking down a sloped walkway, not a full ramp portion, towards the next sign, through another granite sloped walkway, at which point the third sign is sort of to your right. It's not very immediately obvious in this video, that's from pretty far away, but as you walk towards it, you'll be heading down a brick walkway, which if you went straight, would end in stairs. But if you follow towards the ISA sign that is to the right, there is a stair-free route to the right, back to the accessible route. Back to you, Patricia.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. All right. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is another shot of the same area that Andrea was just describing, and it has a porous material, and it seems in good condition. And this is where we had the ice sculptures of our first night. Next slide. Okay, so this is an area where we're showing the brick pavers, and we are just noticing this slight movement, not a lot. There is just a slight settling, but it's not too bad. Next. Okay, so this is an area where the granite pavers meet the porous materials, and we have observed that there is a level change, so of a lip. So that is something that we are going to, point out to property management. Next slide. Okay, so this is a small area where we have observed a couple of access panels. The access is probably for something underground. I don't know exactly what's underground, but we know that there's a lot of stuff there. Some MBTA stuff, and there's also some underground water storm management things under there. So it looks like the brick pavers are starting to chip and deteriorate. So that's what we have observed in that small area. Next. Okay. Few short videos to give you a little bit more detail of the same area that we talked about.
The first video shows Commissioner McCosh, Paul, and Sarah Leung from our office traveling up the Haymarket accessible route, and Sarah's foot bumps against the slightly lifted brick that Patricia had mentioned, that not excessive, but we'll keep an eye on it lit. Next is a slightly longer video, but showing the same group walking that same route. Again, pointed on the brick on a few of the places where there's a little bit of lifting happening across the Hanover Walk. And finally, a video showing the panels, the access panels that Patricia had described, showing Commissioner McCosh traveling over those panels that have some deteriorated brick. No, now they're all showing at the same time. Okay, great.
Thank you, Andrea. Wow, that's fun. Okay, so last one, just for fun, I have the before and after of the plaza renovation. And I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has questions.
Can I just jump in for a minute, Patricia, just to add a little context as well?
Okay.
So I know I gave a brief report on this last one at the end of my commissioner report, but I wanted to have Patricia really give some more detailed information. One thing to keep in mind, as she mentioned briefly, was that we haven't had a lot of snow, and we haven't even had like really freezing weather, because a lot of times brick will get dislodged when it's freezing and thawing, freezing and thawing. So the last few years, really since the renovation, we haven't had brutal winters. So this year we've had a little snow, we've had some cold temperatures, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. And the places that we did see the chip brick really were on the access panels that Patricia mentioned. So we think it's contained for the most part. And if you look in these two pictures side by side, the picture on the left, if you can see all those almost like stripes, they look like bands, those are all steps. And if you look at the one on the right, that image, it looks much more flat now. If you can see it, there really are no steps left on the plaza, except for that one little area near the circle, excuse me, where we installed the accessible route signs. So it's extremely accessible. It's in really good shape. We definitely can mention some places to property management where they can make some repairs. But other than that, we're happy with the way it's held up.
Anything else, Patricia?
No, any questions? I'm all set.
No question? Does anybody from the commission have questions for Patricia?
Carl, I do want to mention that Elizabeth Dean Clower has joined us since we did introductions. And I don't know if she has questions, as I know she did last fall.
Okay. Elizabeth, I know you were one of the commission members that asked for a status update on the City Hall Plaza. I hope your questions were all answered, and I want you to give a brief introduction of yourself since you weren't here earlier when we did introduction. Are you unmuted?
Hi, sorry about that. I just was having trouble unmuting myself. Thank you for the update about the plaza. One of my questions is, and I was interested in a post renovation update after a year, and it's been longer for a combination of reasons. But was to know, have you gotten any feedback about things like lighting or any, meaning in the realm of constructive criticism? Have you gotten anything about wayfinding or, and have you, when you said some tweaks have been made, I was just wondering in what realm, can you tell us a little bit more? Or was that covered last month when I wasn't able to attend?
No, the biggest tweak was feedback from a wheelchair user who mentioned the piece that Andrea went over. When you get into one area of the plaza, there are 3 accessible exits from it, but one exit has stairs, and very shallow stairs. But this person did ask us if we could put signage up. So we did put the signs with the wheelchair symbol showing the accessible route. But I believe that was the only tweak we've made. Is that right, Patricia and Andrea?
That's the only thing that I remember, correct.
We did give a lot of input on the plan as they were working on it. One thing that Patricia pointed out, remember, was the amphitheater seating didn't have handrails. And Patricia said, you have to have handrails on that. So that was something that could have been missed, but Patricia caught it. So that's helpful for people who need to like lean on a railing or use a railing. But other than that, I don't think we've made any tweaks.
Okay, and you haven't, other than in that room by the wheelchair user, you haven't gotten any other feedback that been gotten to?
This is
feedback about anything that either wasn't added or needs an upgrade?
This is Andrea. The only other constituent comment I've heard was from someone with a mobility disability who doesn't use a wheelchair on the new accessible route on Hanover Walk, feeling like there weren't places to stop and rest. The walls there are at a bench height though, so once we pointed that out, she'd just been sort of seeing them as walls, and we're like, have you tried sitting there? She goes, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. So we didn't make any changes as a result there, but we did sort of do a walkthrough with her on the places to stop and rest on Hanover Walk.
And one other change that was made, which a lot of people probably don't know about, we get a lot of questions and complaints about parking for people with disabilities when they come into City Hall, because all the parking is a long distance away from City Hall, because there's actually no parking on most of the streets surrounding City Hall. But we were able to reinstate about 6 accessible spaces on Sudbury Street, which is right near the JFK Federal Building. And as part of the plaza renovation, the design built in a little cutout for 2 or 3 cars to be able to pull in and park for temporary, like 15 to 20 minutes to go in. If you have to get a birth certificate or pay a parking ticket, there's a little pull-in area where people can park. So those are positive changes.
And that new pull-in space is about 250 feet from the new second floor, newly reopened second floor entrance door.
And that's where you pay tickets, pay taxes in that area, and get a birth certificate. So that's where a lot of the transactional things that people need occur. So it's pretty convenient. And I did also just want to ask Paul, I know your background as a bricklayer and you came on the walkthrough with us. Did you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, actually, as a laborer with the bricklayers, a mason tender, but thank you. Yeah, I did talk to Public Works. Unless there's any sort of damage that's drastic, I think that either Public Works or the contractor on the next phase can look at it about replacing anything. And like you said, we've had the mild winters. Other than some chip brick and some expansion joints that are bound to happen anyway, I think that about 90% from our walkthrough, it looks pretty good as far as damage-wise and any kind of raised expansion joints or raised granite. I know that Public Works and Property Management have both looked at it. I'm just not sure when the next phase of the other side of City Hall is going to start. And with that being said, then they can also look and replace any kind of chip pavers or cracked. Right now, with any even replacement in sidewalks, it's tough at Public Works to fix anything with, say you have to reset brick in a day like today with the mortar actually setting, with the cold weather and everything. I know they can reset the bricks, but as far as placing mortar to stabilize them, I don't know how long it would actually last with the cold weather. So it's pending on the weather and also pending on the next phase as far as any drastic repairs. But otherwise, I think it's held, through my walkthrough, it's held up pretty well with the City Hall Plaza. I hope that touched base on some of your questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does
I
anybody?
do have contact information of anyone with concerns. I can be reached through the commissioner or my email address. And I could even, anyone has any questions, I could even inquire even more.
Any questions for Patricia or the commission staff?
Carl, this is Andrea. Jerry has his hand up.
Go ahead, Gary.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Commissioner and Patricia, for expanding on it and on the walkthrough. And thank you for doing the walkthrough. And thank you, Paul, for clarifying, when those repairs, can happen. Is there any way that we can make sure that even if those small repairs can't happen in bad weather, or we're not really sure about, when they can happen? Is there a way that we can keep it on Public Works or building maintenance's radar, so that
Definitely.
when the
Yeah.
weather is good, that those small repairs can happen?
And also from the walkthrough, Jerry, I noticed that, like Commissioner and I noticed, that they're not in, like, there's need of repair, but not in a way where, like in a through way where it's like crumbling, so it would be a real drastic hindrance. They're kind of off to the side. A small percentage might be in a main line throughway where people are using. The expansion joint stuff, I think that just came with the weather and wear and tear. Don't forget, at other winters, even though we haven't had any snow, they are spreading ice melt, sand. There are trucks there are trucks and vehicles utilized on the plaza at certain times, so that has taken its wear and tear also.
Sure. But I just want, I just want us to be able to really, make sure that we do make Public Works and building maintenance aware of it, so when they
Most definitely.
when they can go ahead and do those minor repairs, so that it can be done. I don't want it to slip through the cracks.
I think property management's done an outstanding job of maintaining any kind of cleanliness and anything in the way. After events set up any kind of damage, they've been good about not damaging things with the high volume of traffic and the weight of different things that have been put on the plaza. Property's been above and beyond in upkeeping the maintenance, whether it be just snow, any kind of implemented weather, or cleanliness. They
Sure.
do a great job.
Sure. And again, thank you for your due diligence on our behalf as well.
Of course, my pleasure.
Okay, great. I don't see any other hands raised. Is that correct, Andrea?
I don't see any either.
Good. Next, moving on to the next item is board election nominations. We will be voting for our new members next month, but I just wanted to give you a brief report on current people that have either stepped up and agreed to run for office. Either they came forth or people nominated them. And so we have a proposed slate of officers which will be voted on at next month's meeting. Jerry Boyd, and forgive me if I get the positions wrong and I need to be corrected. I know the four names, but I may have the positions wrong. Jerry Boyd for chair, Olivia Richard for vice chair, Paul Karan for treasurer, is that right?
I believe so.
And Tara Southpark for secretary, is that correct?
I believe that's correct, Commissioner.
Yep, so we'll just go through the process of, I will officially nominate each candidate for each position.
Typically,
And then
we
we'll-
don't get nominated till we do the voting, right?
We're going to do nominations now, and then next month we'll do the voting.
Okay.
So I will nominate Jerry for the role of chair, and I will just ask him if he's interested in accepting this nomination.
Yes, I am. I am interested in, I will accept the nomination for chair for the next 12-month term.
Should we check
And then-
if there's anybody else that's interested? on
Yeah,
that?
we will. I'll just go through my nominations first. So then I was going to nominate Olivia for vice chair. And I want to see if Olivia is interested in this nomination.
Yes, I'm interested, definitely.
Great, nice to see you in person, Olivia.
I thought this was an in-person meeting.
Maybe we'll have to see once it warms up a little bit. And then for secretary, I would like to nominate Paul Karen again. Paul, are you interested in accepting the nomination? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Paul.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege. I appreciate the nomination, Commissioner. Thank you. It's really enjoyed serving this past year and the past few years as secretary and vice chairman, and hope to help to make a difference. Thank you.
And then I'd like to nominate Tara for treasurer. Tara, are you interested in accepting this nomination?
Yes, I accept the nomination for treasurer.
Great. So those are all my nominations. Carl, I can turn it back to you if you'd like to ask if anyone else would like to nominate anyone else or themselves. Everybody is welcome to nominate themselves. That's perfectly fine.
Or other
Anyone who's
people are
interested.
allowed to nominate
Yep.
people they wish to nominate. So are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations for the floor, from the floor? I will ask the third time. Are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I'm closing the nomination process. Next month, we will vote this slate of officers for voting. And that is Jerry Boyd for chair, Olivia Richard for vice chair, Paul Caron for secretary, and Tara Southard for treasurer.
And Andrea, can I just check, is there anything else we need to do procedurally before the elections next month?
Nope.
Great. Well, thank you all. I want to extend a big thanks from me on behalf of my office and the mayor for all the hard work you do. We really appreciate all the time you give to the city, and we really love working with you all. So thank you all for serving on the board.
Okay, next on the agenda is announcement. Does anybody have any announcements that they wish to share with the commission or the members of the public?
I do. This is Olivia.
Go ahead, Olivia.
Y'all know I'm a public housing tenant of the Boston Housing Authority. The BHA has made no bones about how poor they are. And this has directly led to elevator issues in buildings. There was a Channel 10 piece done on the elevator issues. While it's an unacceptable situation, it's unacceptable all around. They're just not getting enough in to be able to put enough out in fixing stuff. I wanted to make the Boston community aware that they do have a contract with a chair company, a chair car company. If you are in a building, a Boston public housing building, and you're a tenant and your elevator goes down and you're stuck, they will contract with this chair car company to get you up and down the stairs. It's not ideal, but it's better than literally being stuck in one place. And I think one of the things that I have on my agenda is trying to get more appropriate funding from Congress for public housing. Thank
So,
you.
Olivia, is this a federal issue or a city of Boston issue?
Both.
It's
Both.
a funding issue or a lack of qualified elevator repairing people?
The issue is they're just not getting enough funding to be able to afford repairing, upgrading, and maintaining their infrastructure.
I can just add a little note on that, Carl, for context. So we do work closely with BHA, the Boston Housing Authority. They are very strapped for cash. A lot of their buildings are old and crumbling and not maintained. There's been a lack of maintenance, similar to the MBTA. If you don't, regularly maintain things, then they don't last. So BHA is now in a position where they're trying to create enough access, but it's really difficult to justify spending like millions of dollars on an old building that's not going to be, renovated fully anyway. They're going to be building new buildings, so trying to make things as accessible as possible while looking towards the future. I will also say that there was a hearing, City Council had a hearing on this, that we testified that we're working closely with BHA, that they let the residents know about the accommodation process, that if they do, if they're in a building with an elevator and the elevator doesn't work, that they will be relocated either to another unit or to a hotel while the elevator is being repaired. So there's a lot happening with BHA right now. They've done a lot of renovations, some new projects in South Boston and Charlestown. But again, it's always an issue of money. So Olivia, we appreciate your efforts on that. As far as like some of the issues that caused the breakdowns, I will say a lot of it for the last few years has been supply chain, as we all know. From COVID, it was really difficult to get parts. Labor is much more expensive now, we know that. And then one thing that we're seeing in my office, we get complaints on a pretty steady basis from people who say the elevators in their buildings are down. And mostly we're seeing like mid-century, like mid-rise buildings, like maybe an apartment building in Brighton that's like 8 stories and has an old elevator that's probably small. It's really difficult to get parts for these elevators. And then if you're talking about a full elevator renovation, that could be like over $1 million. And these may be smaller landlords who don't have that kind of money. So elevators have been identified as a real problem of late, and it's not something that we can directly address other than to point people to the accommodations process that they're entitled to. And MOD has a really good page on that, so we can share that with you. We can put it in the chat, or we can follow up with you if you're interested. But just so you know, the tenants do have rights when it comes to broken elevators. If it's something that can't be fixed, they have rights to be accommodated elsewhere.
The last thing I'll add, and this is Andrea, is BHA operates both federal units and state units. Technically speaking, none of them are city units, and the city has not historically given funds from the city budget to BHA. But they did recently approve a transfer to BHA to help fund some of the modernization efforts at the site that was in the news article Olivia was mentioning. So the city has stepped up with some additional funds. But generally speaking, they have a backlog capital needs of $1.5 billion with a B. And they typically get 30 million with an M between state and federal repair dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie has his hand up for announcements.
Go ahead.
Hey, this is Charlie. I just wanted a clarifying question on this, 'cause I did see that news report and then read some follow-up articles. So thanks for bringing that up, Olivia. So, Commissioner, are you saying that, and I heard loud and clear that a lot of this doesn't fall under the city, but then what does fall under the commission? Is it not the advocacy, but is it the education on the relocation service, or does the city take care of some of those relocation accommodations? What is it that can clearly be communicated, I guess, to the residents and those who are affected at where they should kind of and help focus some of their advocacy, like where those funds could come from, so they could, figure out and understand, how to navigate some of these challenges?
Yep, so housing is a little bit confusing because it's covered by different laws. Housing isn't explicitly covered under the ADA. Most of the housing regulations are under the Fair Housing Act, the FHA. Where housing does come into play under ADA is as a Title II entity, which my office oversees, everything that the city of Boston owns and operates needs to be accessible. So BHA, as a city quote-unquote department, does need to provide access. It also applies to our shelter systems that are located in the city that we own and operate. So we've had several complaints about shelter access and people not being accommodated in homeless shelters. As far as BHA, housing writ large really isn't us, but I certainly know private housing doesn't have anything to do with like my office because we're strictly Title II. And that's where we work hard to make sure that residents know their rights. And that would be, I see Colleen put the link in the chat. And it's a really pretty detailed page, just you're talking about the accommodations that people are entitled to. It's always tough though, because if they offer to move you out of your apartment, who wants to leave their apartment? So it's really a bad choice of moving out or staying stuck on, an upper floor with no access to getting out of the building. So it's definitely a challenge, but our office doesn't really directly oversee any of that because BHI is kind of a quasi, like city agency. Like Andrew said, they have state funds, they have federal funds. And I'm not the ADA coordinator for their agency. They have their own ADA coordinator and things like that. So as far as housing, our role in the city, my role, is pretty much limited to the homeless shelters because that's considered housing or lodging.
This is Andrea. Where we've also stepped in on this particular issue with the Housing Authority is, yes, talking about, hey, here's what from a disabled person's perspective, here's what would be helpful communication from you, here's what would be, good to know and good to provide if you're not already providing. So a lot more of that like constituent facing, make sure you're giving them the accommodations they need, make sure you know what they're entitled to. We've also loaned a little bit of additional, not quite strategic planning. They've consolidated all their elevator maintenance under a single department when it used to be site by site, which is huge. But we helped them think through, we were part of the process of helping them think through how to tackle the whole backlog and how to approach prioritization versus relocating folks. As part of that process. So we're there as pinch hitters and really, especially talking about the constituent perspective, but ultimately, we don't have, our budget is very small, we don't have funds to help them reconstruct the elevators. But to Olivia's point, we can certainly advocate for more.
Anybody else with announcements? I have a brief one, but if anybody else has them, I'd like them to go. Okay, and many of you may know, the Massachusetts legislature was sworn in a week ago today on New Year's Day. And that means we have a brand new session, so all the bills have to be reintroduced or submitted. And if you have any bills you would like submitted tied to the disability community, get in touch with your legislator and ask them to submit a bill, because now's the time to do it for the next few weeks before committees start being formed and committee assignments are given out. So if you want a bill to be submitted and you have any questions about how to do that, feel free to reach out to me or your legislative office.
Excellent. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm frozen too.
Oh no.
It's totally frozen.
Meeting disconnected. I'm wondering if it's my laptop. I was afraid my laptop died.
The whole Zoom just kicked out.
Yep, Zoom just crashed.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
we're back.
okay. Okay, this is Andrea. Everyone is muted because of a Zoom error. Please give me a moment.
And everybody has the
Can't
same
hear
permission.
anybody. But I can't hear anybody because this computer is not
And I
connected.
can't hear Carl either.
No, because this computer is not connected.
We need help.
City Hall got kicked out of the meeting. I can't hear anybody.
Recording in progress. They will put them on future agendas. Now's the time where we take input from members of the public. If so, please raise your hand and Andrea will acknowledge you.
Andrea may be having some technical difficulty, so I can help. Is this public input? Carl, did you say?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Any members of the public have any comments or questions?
Okay, I'm back. Commissioner, can you hear me?
There was a question in the, that was from the public.
Do you remember what that question was, Paulette, or would that person?
Frozen elevators, escalators at City Hall, not working?
Okay,
Yes.
it's in the chat, yeah.
Can you hear me,
Okay, so it
Commissioner?
says, during the December events at City Hall, the escalators were not working. Had they been repaired? Visiting seniors need to be aware of accessibility is limited. So thanks for the question, Barbara. The escalators have not been repaired. They will not be repaired. The city is actually going to replace the escalators with a 4-stop elevator. So it will be much more accessible than the escalators. They're part of the original building from the 1960s, and they're out of code. You can't get parts for them anymore. They were never super convenient anyway, so we have a design and funding for the new 4-stop elevator, and that's in the process of being, they're working on it now. So escalators won't be repaired, but there will be an elevator.
This is Andrea. Commissioner, can you hear me?
Any other questions from the public or comments?
Okay. Since I'm the chair, I can't make the final motion. Does anybody else? If there are no comments from the members of the public, no other comments.
Oh, I see Jerry has a hand raised.
Okay, Jerry?
I was going to take over for you, Carl, and make your motion to adjourn.
Do I hear any second?
Charlie's raising his hand.
Charlie? I'm assuming by raising hand, you're second. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm seconding Chair's motion.
Great.
to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year, and I look forward to having a productive year with the commission in 2025. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Recording stopped.